Renita Bonadies, first on the list.
Good evening, Renita Bonadies. Back in July of last year, I did a FOIA request, and one of the things on that request was all MPS staff salary and total compensations benefits. When I did that, it was because there was a lot of discussion I heard during the bond thing about salaries and wages for teachers and things, so I just wanted to see what the numbers were. I know there are some public access items that you can look at, but they're pretty much only the wages, so it doesn't show the benefit side of things. So that was why I had gotten that file. And when I was looking through it, there were a couple of things I kind of wasn't sure about. There were 2 parapros listed in the employees. One of them made $0 in wages, but had $70,983 in benefits. Another parapro had $574 in wages and $89,141 in benefits. That just was really kind of shocking. I wasn't sure how somebody would have that kind of benefit with no wages. So just curious how that works, because most of the parapros weren't anywhere near that total compensation level. The other thing I wanted to mention is the fact that, the public all knows, I have 2 lawsuits against the school district over FOIA fees. And I appreciate the fact that the agenda packets have been made free to the public now on the website. The one thing I've not seen change, though, in the last year and a half since I filed that lawsuit was the policy has still not been changed, so that FOIA fees still have to be cannot be appealed to the school board president. Instead, the only recourse for the public, if the fees we believe are too high, is to actually file a lawsuit. So in the year and a half, that particular aspect of my discussions, even before I filed the lawsuit, was you are giving the public no recourse except to take you to court if your FOIA fees that you're charging us, we believe, are in excess of what they should be. And I know the county commissioners, local townships, they all can be appealed to the board president. So I would challenge why the school district has not done the same and changed our policy so that it can be appealed to the board president and save everybody a lot of legal fees. Thank you.
Joe Bonadies.
Greetings. I had a chance to read the Omnitech report several times. I'd like to point out a few things that stand out. 1, it describes this as a development process for a new master plan. I would like to specifically point out that this is the first master plan. 2, there were a few mentions about needing public engagement. 3, the topic of transparency came up many times. A few were positive, several were needing improvement, and a few were that it was poor. 4, in future bonds, the future bonds need to be clear and transparent, but specifically to come before the public before redirecting priorities. This goes back to the concerns about a blank check that allows freewheel pivoting from the last bond proposal. 5, the Omnitech survey was preloaded with the one high school question, which was interesting. This was not specifically covered in some areas. The parents were mixed, concerned, and felt uninformed. The only positive area was for the one high school was the board input. 6, communication input improvements were mentioned in some areas to understand more about what is going on. For myself, in one listening session, I had a dad tell Omnitech, quote, "I have 4 kids in 3 schools. I get inundated with emails constantly, and there may be some important stuff in there, but I cannot read all of this." 7, you had over 1,000 elementary school kids feedback into this survey. I'm sorry, but you can't put a kid in a candy store and call it data. That's when you get things like we need field houses while we're only just starting to do life skills training. 8, page 15. The board feedback comments on communication and trust. This section offered some hope on better board awareness, including a need to build trust and communication improvements. Finally, while the survey had some demographic questions, it neglected to ask if you were an MPS resident. I don't care what a school choice kid from out of the district wants. We are here to serve residents and their children. If you need more out-of-district kids to balance the books, you need to change the model. Enough of that. We have the GMB process now on the horizon and another set of parameters. Thank you.
Bill Domina.
Good evening. After reading the 80-page Omnitech report, I think they did an amazing job capturing comments from a wide cross-section of the community and stakeholders. However, the many individual comments are analogous to a reservoir of colored tile pieces such that the final design can take many forms. That mosaic will be the next bond proposal. While I was against the last bond, I am praying for you to generate a bond or sinking fund proposal that has a chance to pass and addresses the reasons why 2/3 of voters said no. Here are some key items that I hope you take to heart. Dow is laying off 15% globally, and that will further erode the tax base of Midland and decrease enrollment. Your plan must be the epitome of frugality, supported by detailed plans and systems for transparency in order for those living on the edge to support more taxes. We are not the affluent Midland of 10 years ago. On page 4, it lists financial discipline and high achievement scores as MPS strengths. The no voters disagreed emphatically that their money was or would be used wisely. Trust must be re-earned. The third grade reading and math proficiency numbers were a shock to many, especially when they understood the difference between raw proficiency and the inflated numbers that factored in non-academic criteria. Some common things across demographics regarded overcrowding classrooms and the need for more parapros. There was no mention of how this issue can be helped by limiting pre-K enrollment to Carpenter School and achieving 85% classroom utilization by limiting out-of-district enrollment. Regarding age-appropriate use of technology, encouragement to limit Chromebooks and screen time in favor of the more effective use of textbooks for young learners, perhaps until grade 5. Also, there is no long-term plan for facilities and infrastructure. A community-supported, long-term plan for facilities and infrastructure is a foundational need. Page 47, maintain and improve existing buildings with a focus on long-term sustainability. Amen. Reduce deferred maintenance to protect facilities, investing strategically to extend useful life. Address disparities in building conditions and resources. Facility investments should reduce inequities caused by aging infrastructure or uneven distribution of upgrades between schools. In summary, I encourage you to analyze this report in light of the reasons why the last bond was defeated and create your mosaic accordingly. Thank you.
Jennifer Lowe.
Hello, I'm Jenny Lowe. I'm an MPS staff member working in the Dow High Theater and Music Department, substitute teacher and a mother of 5. My oldest graduated summa cum laude last year from Dow, and the 4 others look forward to following her. I am a theater director, and I know how to speak slowly, but not tonight, so I apologize. Today I'm speaking to urge you to reconsider approving Chromebooks for grades K through 5, particularly as it applies to today's vote, and ask that you take a step back and ask if we are spending money because it's what's best for our students or because it's what has been done. My suggestion is to form a task force of stakeholders, including elementary school teachers and parents, to discuss appropriate technology use for our youngest students. I participated in the strategic planning feedback sessions and know I'm not the only one concerned about this topic. When we moved here in 2012, 1 grade per building, including my daughter's kindergarten class, piloted 1-to-1 iPads. In 2013, the public voted down a bond that would provide one-to-one devices for all of our students. However, in 2015, a bond was passed by voters. According to the ballot language, the measure was a request for installing security measures for remodeling, furnishing, and anyway, it's very technical. It says installing instructional technology and instructional technology equipment for school buildings, along with buses and other things. Sorry, I'll stumble over it. The ballot language left something out that was overlooked. It wasn't until shortly before the vote that it was revealed that instructional technology meant one-to-one devices and was buried in the technical details. Because it was coupled with needed upgrades, including the proposal to build Central Park, and was not publicly made known even in the ballot language, the measure passed without question. To many of us, it felt like a dirty political trick. Numerous studies have linked technology use to depression, anxiety, and self-harm, particularly in the ages of 10 through 14. We know the effects of technology on attention span and ability to handle social situations, and no one needs to pay for research on the behavioral effects that come from trying to pull a young child away from screen. Yet every day we are doing this to our kids in the elementary schools. We give kids the rewards their brains crave only to pull it away. We end up forcing our teachers to deal with it, then blame the teachers for not getting results we want. I would love to see a study that examines reading scores among our third graders and not just look pre and post COVID, but look pre and post devices, where we're already heading downwards. I'm urging our school board to be creative leaders in protecting our students' mental health and social health while taking active measures to preserve childhood and reverse the disturbing trends associated with technology. My suggestion would be to eliminate one-to-one devices for students in at least K through 4th grades, go the old-fashioned route where each school has a class set per grade on a cart that teachers can reserve. Then when students hit 5th or 6th grade, they have to take a multi-part class that discusses responsible and healthy tech use, sharing with them the pros and cons of screens and what research has said. Help them to take control of their own mental health. And after this and a parent's signature, they'll be given a one-to-one device, which still allows for them to have it in grades beyond 5th or 6th grade. Midland has the potential to lead the way in equipping our students for life beyond school and to fight the tide of anxiety, depression, escapism, loneliness, and extremism that have all eroded our society. Thank you.
Thanks. Anybody else like to address the board?
I'm going to piggyback off of Jenny Lowe. My name is Bethany Broderick. I have 4 kids in the school system ranging from 6th grade to senior in high school. And my kids all started here from kindergarten on. I love the Midland Public Schools. I think you guys do a great job, and I appreciate all you do, but I do want to look at the same Chromebook issue. And more from less of the logistical aspect of it and more kind of the psychological aspect of it. So here you're going to have this vote, this procedural thing to vote to keep the Chromebook program going, right? And but before we spend money on perpetuating a system that I don't necessarily agree with, despite having a son who is like all my children do well academically despite the Chromebooks being in the classroom, I think that there are better ways to spend our money. So I want to talk about my 6th grader, Forden. He is struggling to focus in class and at home to work on his Chromebook for things that he is assigned to do because he gets distracted by games and videos and other things that are also available on those Chromebooks. And why? Because the school system taught him to do that. Because in elementary school, the Chromebooks are used as like a reward. After you get your work done, you can work on your Chromebook, or indoor recess, or all these things that allow the children to use it as a reward system rather than an academic tool. So in the early grades, Chromebooks are used primarily and sometimes exclusively to entertain free time. And the students are inevitably drawn to entertaining games on their screens. We feed them that 5 years, or 6 years, kindergarten through 5th grade, and then suddenly in middle school, they're required to use them as tools, but they haven't yet learned those skills to use them as tools. Oh, my notes just disappeared. Okay, so my son, he had his Chromebook taken away in class because he was caught playing games. And we thanked his teacher for doing that, right? Because we don't want him to be playing the games. But we asked him, and he said, well, all the other kids were doing it too. I just wasn't as fast at getting rid of it, right? And so it's like, it's a epidemic of some sorts, right? And I feel like if we're still feeding money into the system of Chromebooks for elementary school kids, we're not going to find a solution. So think about that as you vote tonight to add money to the system that I feel like is hurting my children. Thank you.